Welcome back to MGD 111 Photoshop 1. We're going to continue looking at selection tools. Specifically, we're going to look at what we call the lasso tools. Those should be found right below your marquee tools. There's the lasso tool, the polygonal, pronounce it either way, lasso tool, and the magnetic lasso tool. Let's start with the lasso tool itself. So let's zoom in on this picture. Now the lasso tool, let's pick the right one here. Basically, we hold down the cursor and we draw with it. So watch as I draw around her hat here. Whee! I'm just going to kind of cut across here. I just want to isolate the hat. That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty nice outline that I did there. The problem is, a lot of times you don't have a nice shape like this that you can do. And you can see that there's some pixels that kind of fall on the wrong end of the line here. Like our regular marquee tools, the rectangle and ellipse and all that, same rules apply. Add to the selection by holding down plus, or you can subtract from it by holding down minus. And you don't have to hold the minus key down the whole time. You just have to hold it down when you start. So, let go, and I've got her hat pretty well isolated there. Now, the cool thing about the lasso tool is we can use this for some very organic shapes. Obviously, not everything is a rectangle or an ellipse. The downside of it is you have to have a pretty steady hand in order to draw with it properly. One thing that really helps is if we use a feather on something like this. So I'm going to deselect. I'm going to select my feather to 1 pixel. And I'm going to try drawing this hat again. Let's see how well I can do it. Years of practice. And it's kind of a tricky tool to use at times. And I fell a little short over here. That's okay. I'm just going to hold my shift key down. I'm going to draw some more on it. And it's not a bad tool to use, but there's actually a better tool in our bucket here. And that is the polygon lasso. So I'm going to switch to that. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to zoom in even more. Now what the polygon lasso does is it draws in straight lines. So what I'm going to do is click here, click here, click here, here. And you notice I'm able to control it pretty precisely. Now you'll notice also I am making the shape out of some very straight lines. Actually, Photoshop makes everything out of straight lines. A pixel either falls inside the line or outside the line, so it will sort of stair-step it. The cool thing is, though, if we can get a pretty precise outline using this tool, there are tools that we can use to refine this edge, and we'll look at those later. So I got a pretty nice outline there. Now, something else we can do too, and this is the real beauty of the polygon lasso tool. Let's try to outline her hat again. So I've got it, and this takes practice to be able to get to do this. You want to zoom in to a certain degree, and you have to sort of fall in the edge here between where the sky meets the hat. And, oh no, I sneezed! Ah, I went awry! Okay, don't panic. Here's the cool thing about the polygon lasso tool. I made a bunch of steps that I didn't want to do. If I don't end this shape here, if I just hit delete, it deletes the last point that I did. Delete again, etc. And it keeps going back to the points until I get back to the point where I want it to go. So it's a pretty easy to use tool, so don't panic if you get a little bit off target. Whoops. You can just hit delete and go back a bit. Now as you get to the end of your shape, you have two options here. If I know I just want to go from a straight line from this shape, or from this point right here to where I started, I can double click and it will just connect it for me. Or if I zoom in really close here, you'll notice when I hover over the very end, or the very beginning of my line here, see that little circle that pops up next to the lasso? That tells me if I click there, it'll close that loop. So I'm just going to click there and do that. Now you can see up close this looks a little bit rough, but let's go ahead and make some adjustments to it. Brightness and contrast. And you can see it sort of has a soft edge around where we put the feather. So this is good for outlining organic things, things with flexible shapes, things that are not a very hard, precise shape. So I rarely use the regular lasso tool. I use the polygon lasso tool a lot. So I'm going to click cancel here, and we're going to take a look at a couple more selection tools in our next lesson, so keep this open.